What do you perceive as the biggest threat to the stock market as we move forward within the next few months?
Few months.
Welcome back, friends, for one more update from the world of EV stocks. In case you're new to this channel, please do consider subscribing. And if you live in the United States, you can get 2 free shares worth up to $1,850 just by following the link in the description. Now enjoy the rest of the video.
CATHIE Wood of ARK Invest was back on an investor webinar yesterday, and she shared some stunning insights about what she thought of the immediate risk to the stock market. She talked on a range of important topics, from inflation fears to what's happening with the growth stocks.
Okay, we're coming up on the hour, so I have just maybe a few more questions, macro questions for you, CATHIE. The first, why is growth/technology falling even though the 10-year Treasury yield is still declining?
Yes, why are value stocks, or why have growth stocks been penalized? Well, I think there was a demarcation point mid-May as commodity prices started to, some at least, started to tip over. And I think there was, in the first quarter, a technical reason that bond yields went up so much. So there is a little bit of settling down. The technical reason had to do with the leniency the Fed granted to banks in terms of calculating their capital ratios. They were able to include long-term Treasury bonds starting, I believe, in April of 20, but that was only to last until March of 2021. Many banks, I believe, thought they were going to extend that leniency so that the banks could enjoy more of the income from bonds as opposed to just very little income from bills. But politics got in the way. The date was not extended. So banks had to disgorge Treasury bonds during the first quarter. So the increase in the first quarter, I think, was in part technical. The decrease in the second quarter, therefore, has to be in part technical. That said, I am surprised at how low these bond yields are. The search for yield, the reach for yield, is at an extreme. And I do think the bond market is in a bubble on the one hand, while the stock market, finally responding to a V-shaped recovery, has rotated towards value. So, and I know there's a bit of a tug of war now. I believe that if interest rates stay as low as we think they will, meaning they won't go above that 2 to 3% range, we're going to have a valuation, we're going to have an increase in the market's valuation. I don't believe people believe that is the eventuality. I think too many people are afraid of inflation, which is a multiple killer. As I just said, we are not, but I think the market is, and that partly explains the disconnect here.
Great, and you touched on another question as well. Okay, I think we have time for just one last one. What do you perceive as the biggest threat to the stock market as we move forward within the next few months?
Few months.
Or maybe we can open it up to the next 6 to 12. Make it a little different.
Well, the next 6 to 12 months, if we're wrong on this thesis, and I think oil prices are a big psychological factor here. If oil prices were to continue to burst through that last peak, which I think was 77, and continue on up, then that is a big tax increase for the global economy. And it will continue to get into the inflation metric. So inflation will be higher than we thought, but I believe than we think. I believe that most who are in the higher inflation and really fearing uncontrolled inflation will seize upon oil prices to make their case, if that's what happens. I think that is the risk. And, OPEC, Saudi Arabia, does hold a lot of cards here. My guess is they'll start fearing demand destruction and start letting out more oil. In the meantime, the forces powering the electric vehicle uptake are going to be the demise of oil prices ultimately. You know, in 06 and through 08, this is actually what happened. Oil prices went from 60 to $140. This was in the spring of 08 when I thought the writing was on the wall, but oil prices and it really caused a lot of problems. I think people underestimate how much of a tax increase it is.